Hello there, and welcome back to the 100 Acre Wool Knitting Podcast. My name is Bella, and I come to you from Los Angeles, California, and this is a podcast where I talk to you and show you all the things that I've been making recently, usually knitting, sewing, or fiber arts related. So today I have a very exciting program for you guys, at least I hope it's exciting. I'm going to be showing you some knitting projects that I've been working on recently. I have a half-finished object to show you, and also a new little segment for today. I will be doing a garden tour and showing you some of the things I'm growing. So let's get started. So as with all of my videos, links to everything that I talk about today as far as yarn or patterns that I mention, and also my project pages on Ravelry, those will all be linked in the description below. And also timestamps to everything that I talk about today. If you would like to skip to one part in particular, those links will be in the description as well. And if you would like to follow me elsewhere on the interwebs, I am also on Instagram or Ravelry at 100 Acre Wool. And on those places, I post more updates for my projects and things I'm working on. So let's first get into my first finished object or half-finished object. I have been working on this project for quite a while now, off and on, but it's been on my needles for quite a while. So it is a pair of mittens, and I have finally finished one of the mittens. Okay, so yeah, this has been a long process, long project in the works. So I'm not following a pattern for this pair of mittens. I have been kind of making it up as I go along, but I actually took inspiration from a different pattern and started making this. So there's a little backstory to this project. This past December, I knit a hat for my grandmother, and she just loved it so much, and she really wanted a matching set of like a hat and a pair of mittens, and also some socks to go along with that as well. So she commissioned me to create her some mittens and some socks. So the hat that I made her, I'll put a picture of it here. The hat that I had knit for her was inspired by an Alice Starmore design that I saw online on her Virtual Yarns website. It's called the Merveille Jour hat. That's the original pattern name. But I didn't have the pattern, and I didn't want to purchase the whole kit for it. You have to get the pattern in with a kit of the yarn and everything, and there's a poncho involved, and it was just a lot that I just didn't want to knit all of that. So I decided to just kind of take inspiration from the images of the hat online and kind of made my own chart from that. So it's not the exact same pattern as the hat, and I'm also using different yarn, which I'll talk about in a minute, but I kind of just took inspiration. It's a very similar chart as far as I could tell from just studying the pictures, but it is different. I'm not using the same pattern. So that was how the hat came about. That was the inspiration for that. So then my grandma was like, you know, I want the mittens to match the hat, so then I had to make a mitten chart for that to match. So that's what I did for this. So I've kind of been making the chart up as I went along knitting this. At the beginning, all this sort of portion was basically I just took it from what I used for the hat, but then more of like the thumb area and then this top area. That was kind of me just winging it and making it up as I went along because I didn't have a chart for that, or I didn't, have one that I used for the hat for that. And this is also actually the first pair of mittens that I'm ever making at all. I've never knit any sort of mittens before, so I'm not aware of kind of the pattern structure and, generally how they're constructed. I didn't know how mittens are generally constructed, and I think maybe I wish I knew. These aren't horrible by any means at all. I'm really proud of them, and I'm really happy with how they turned out. But it's just the tops here that I think I maybe could have cast off a different way. I did a Kitchener stitch for this mitten part, and then this one for the thumb I just decreased all the way down so I could just, tie it off that way. But maybe there's a different way or a better way to do it, because I think I could have gotten a better shape on the top here. I'm not sure if you'll be able to tell, but it's got like a little bump where the Kitchener stitch is. But I mean, they're beautiful nonetheless, and I think my grandma's really going to like them. I hope she does. And yeah, they were just so fun to knit, but a lot of knitting and a lot of color changing, as you can probably tell. So there's 8 colors that I'm using in this, and it changes very often, as you can tell. Oh, and I worked them bottom up, so I started casted on here and worked them to the top there. That's probably typically how mittens are made. I don't know, but anyways, yeah, I cast on at the ribbing here, so you can see there's, even just in the ribbing, there's a lot of color changes, and then when we get into the color work, it's just a few rows between color changes. So that just takes a long time, and there's a lot of ends to weave in, which I still have to do. If you look on the underside, if you look in the wrong side of the mitten, there's still quite a few ends in there that I have to weave in. But I'm very happy and pleased with my floats. I don't think that anything's going to be getting caught on these. I really try to weave in my floats every 4 stitches, so that's kind of just my general rule of thumb. For any color project, I like to weave in my floats at a maximum of 4 stitches apart. I think that makes it a pretty solid fabric that nothing will get caught on. So that's what I did for this project. And let me put it on so I can show you how it fits. And like I said, I wasn't using any sort of pattern for this, and I've never even made mittens before. So I was just kind of, making it up as I went along, and I was kind of just trying it on as I was knitting it to make sure it fit properly. And I think I did a pretty good job. I mean, it fits me, and it's nice and snug, and I think that'll be good. I think my grandma will like that a lot. They are very nice and snug, and so they'll be nice and warm for her. I know her hands get very cold, so hopefully that'll be good for her. And yeah, so that's what they look like being worn. There we go, all the way around. So I knit these magic loop method, and the last time that I talked about these on the podcast, I had mentioned how there was some little tension issues that I was seeing, and so many people responded. Thank you so much for all of your comments and suggestions on how to fix that or different needles that I should use. So I actually ended up purchasing 9-inch circulars, and I have yet to try them out. But that's going to be very exciting, and we'll see how that goes when I get to it. I think what I'll do in the future for small circumference projects like this, especially for color work, when I'm using multiple colors on the same row, I think I'll just use 9-inch circulars, and that will probably keep the tension equal all the way around. Because basically I was getting, when I switched needles, when you have to change your needle doing magic loop, I was getting a little tension issue here. But I think it's going to be fine when I block it out. I'm pretty sure it will even itself out, because it's really not that big of a deal at all. It's not even that noticeable in my opinion. And then I also, I was able to kind of remedy it as I kept knitting. So as I kept knitting up here, it looked better with the tension on the side. So yeah, that was great. And I also did magic loop on the little thumb here. And I don't know if you'll be able to tell, but the thumb also has color work in it. So that was so much fun, just doing little tiny color changes, and it's very, very delicate work. But it was really fun. So the yarn that I used for this is Drops Alpaca. I really love that yarn base by Drops. It's so soft and so warm, and they have such a huge color range. I just really, really love that yarn. So yes, I'm using 8 different colors of the Drops Alpaca. So they say on the Drops website that Drops Alpaca is supposed to be a sport weight yarn, but I really think it's actually a fingering weight. It just seems thinner than sport to me. So I used size 1 US needles to make these, and I think the gauge is pretty dense that I got, and especially since it's color work, it's double thickness. I can kind of try to spread my fingers apart in these mittens, and I don't see any sort of holes. Like it's a very dense gauge, I think, which I like. I mean, because mittens, you want them to be warm, and just wearing them right now, my hand is getting quite sweaty in here. But yeah, I think they're going to be really nice. So yes, I need to cast on the second one of these, and hopefully I'll have them finished for her soon. I know it's May, and she's definitely not going to be able to wear these when I finish them for her, but I know when fall rolls around and Christmas rolls around, she'll be able to wear these all the time. So that is my half-finished object for today. And I think now we will get into the gardening section of today's video. So in last week's episode, I asked you guys if you wanted to see a little tour of my garden, and so many people said yes, so that's amazing. So let's get into the garden tour. But if you don't want to watch that, fear not, you can just skip along to the next section and I will show you my next work in progress. So yeah, let's get into the garden tour. Hello there and welcome to the garden tour. So let's get started. Things are kind of all over the place, I'll just say that now. I don't have my garden in like one central location, so I'm going to be moving around a lot and we'll get to each spot individually. So the first spot is right here. I am starting some seeds. These are zucchini plants and some cucumbers and watermelon and I think also cantaloupe. I forget everything that I planted, but basically melons and cucumbers as well. I think the zucchini are about ready to go into pots, so I'll do that soon. And then these are also some pepper plants that I started for my dad. I'll be giving those to him when they get a little bit bigger. So those are doing really well. And then we have some thyme here. It's flowering, I should prune it. But this is some lemon thyme and it smells so beautiful. It's really, really nice smell. And I use it in my cooking all the time, just put it on everything. It's so yummy. And then this guy, see if I can get him in the frame. This thing here, I don't know what it is. It was a volunteer and we still don't know what kind of plant this is. It's really, really taking off and it's just going kind of crazy. If you know what this is, please leave it in a comment below. If you recognize this leaf structure or this type of plant, I'm not sure what that is, but that was a little volunteer. And here is our second area of the garden. So we have some more established plants over here. And so this one over here, this guy, this is a tomato plant that we overwintered from last season and just kind of majorly pruned him back for this season. And all of this new green growth that you see is this year. It's been kind of crazy just within the past month or so. It's been all of this growth. And you can already see some tomatoes happening. Here's one little guy here, and I think there's one back here somewhere, and then there's one down there that's actually turning red already. Can you see? This one's here already turning red. So that's really, really awesome. His leaves are kind of curly right now. It was a really hot day, so that'll surely get fixed when we water him. And this is a Cherokee purple tomato, so it's like kind of a really big beefsteak. Maybe you may be able to tell by that. And here I have some cilantro, which is already flowering, unfortunately. I've been able to harvest some fronds, but I think it's just gonna be flowers. But that's okay, because cilantro flowers are really, really beautiful. I actually like to use them in floral arrangements all the time. So those will actually be really nice to have. And then this is some radishes that I've just been kind of neglecting. They're really, really small, and I don't know if I'm even gonna eat them at this point because they're flowering now, but maybe I'll just save some seeds of them. But those are some radishes there. And then this guy is a pepper plant. This is bell peppers that we also overwintered from last year. We didn't prune this one back as much. I think we maybe should have, because all of the new growth is getting kind of heavy over here already. But we're getting so many flowers. Can you see all of these blooms coming? There's flowers over here, and we already have some peppers forming. There's a bell pepper here, and there's a couple over here, and then there's a bunch of spots of new growth happening all over the place. So he's looking very nice and healthy, doing well. And here are some new tomatoes that I planted this year. Uh-oh, I think I need to get a stalk in here to get him to stand up properly. Or maybe I'll just tie him around the trellis. But anyways, I don't actually remember the variety of these. This is actually 2 plants technically. But I think they're cherry tomatoes. I'm not quite sure, but I think they're cherries. And those are already getting some flowers here. And then, I'm not sure if you'll be able to see, down here, all of these are volunteers. These are all flowers, and I'm also forgetting the names of these. If I can figure out what they are, I will put the name here. But I call them alien flowers. When they bloom, they actually kind of look like alien pods, in my opinion. They look really cool and really weird. They're really fun. So those are all volunteers, and then also here as well. Those and those and those, they're all the same variety. We actually planted this variety like 4 years ago, I think, a really long time. And every single year they pop back up just on their own. It's really fun. We actually planted them here 4 years ago, and they've kind of migrated and spread, so that's fun. And then here are some little baby plants that we just put in here a couple weeks ago. I think these are amaranth, maybe how you say it? I'm not sure. That might be wrong. I'll put the name here if I'm wrong. So that is this little section. And here is another section of the garden. This is another tomato plant that we have. This is also a Cherokee Purple, and we overwintered this plant from last year as well, pruned it heavily, and then all of this new growth happening is just from this year. So it's just going crazy, going wild, and it's doing really well. And we have so many tomatoes going already. You can see there's groups of them all over the place. I think I actually counted 10 earlier, that we have already like 10 tomatoes growing there. So that's kind of crazy. And here is another little area of the garden tour. Here are my mint plants. I am a big fan of mint. I really, really love mint. I put it in my smoothies and in my salads, and I just eat it all the time in desserts. Also, I make ice cream with mint. So tasty. So this one is spearmint, just plain spearmint. And this one is just going nuts. I actually moved this plant recently. It used to be out with the other tomato plants that I showed you earlier, but I moved it back here. I thought it was getting too much sun, but now I'm thinking it's not getting enough because it's kind of getting leggy now. So I think I might move that back to where it was. Same with this one, it's getting a little bit leggy now because it's like always in the shade. And this one is actually a strawberry mint. Yes, strawberry mint. I just thought that was so cool when I saw it at the garden center. Had to pick it up. It smells so good. It literally smells like strawberries and mint, like how you would think it would smell. And it's really tasty. I've been using this in desserts all the time. Such a good one. And here is our last stop on the garden tour for today. This is my garden tower. It's a really awesome planter, meant for small spaces, you know, growing things in small spaces. It's just awesome. I've had it for 2 seasons now, and it's, I mean, as you can see, it works. So let's get into this jungle up here. We have some tomato plants, and this is a marigold, and then this is actually called New Zealand spinach. It's really tasty. It's a new variety that I'm trying out this year, and it's super juicy. Like when you bite into the actual leaf of the spinach, it's very flavorful and yummy. So that's really fun. I love that plant. And then also some new tomato varieties. These are different types of cherry tomatoes. I have some orange cherry tomatoes and some red cherry tomatoes. And then over here, we have a mound of broccoli rabe, which has definitely gone to flower, so I'm kind of just letting it go. It started going to flower very soon after I put it in here, so not sure what happened there, but I'll get some good seed from it. But there actually are a few broccolis that I might be able to harvest. Yeah, there might be a few around that I can get to, but that might just be seed. And then some more spinach over here, doing really well. And over here in the middle, I hid a little Salanova lettuce here, and it's getting bigger. It's doing well. I'm not going to harvest it yet, but that's looking really, really tasty. And in this empty spot here, that actually was another tomato plant, but something happened and it like fell over for no reason whatsoever. Something had like kind of severed the bottom of the stalk, the main branch, and it had like fallen over. But I captured it and I saved it. We put it in some water and it's been rooting by itself, you know, just sitting in some water. So I think it's gonna do fine. It's looking a lot better now, and we'll be able to plant it back in here. It's a little bit behind, you know, the other tomato plants that have been doing really well in here, but that'll be back in there soon. And then let's see what else. Down here, there's more broccoli robs. And then here at the bottom, I have some pepper plants, which I may need to move. I don't know if they're getting enough sun. They haven't grown very much since I put them in, but we'll see how that goes. And then here we have a, let's see, green bean. These are green beans, this one. I have a few green beans up here. Here's a green bean. And these I just started in here in the garden tower. Green beans, or I guess beans in general, they don't like to be transplanted, so I just stuck the seeds in here and then they sprouted from there. And then we have a few zinnias. This one is a zinnia that's coming up, and another zinnia and another zinnia. The zinnias are looking good. And let's see what else. Yes, this is a marigold, and I just love marigolds so much. We're already getting a flower bud here at the top. Hopefully you can see that. So that's going to be really fun. And then there's always other buds that come out on the sides. And this variety gets really, really big. So that'll be fun. And then this is another kind of spinach, I think. I don't quite remember. But I think these are also spinaches. And then a tiny little tomato plant. I got some mini Tom tomatoes. And oh my gosh, you can actually see one here. That's so fun. So that's doing pretty well in that spot. And then another amaranth there. I haven't filled in the entire garden tower yet. I'm thinking I'm gonna plant more green beans because I love green beans and I could eat them forever. So I'll probably just put more seeds in there, and that's easy to just sprout up. And then, yeah, another tomato plant here. Oh, and we have a new tomato here. That's new. Oh, and is this one too? Oh yeah, oh my gosh, there's 3 of them here. So that's really fun. That's gonna be really fun. I love tomatoes. Tomatoes are one of my favorite vegetables. As you can probably tell, this garden tour is really just tomato plants. But I think that's everything that I have in the garden tower for now. So yeah, that's everything for today's tour. I will make sure to update you guys with, you know, how this is looking in a few months if you're curious about that. All right, let's get on with the next part of the video. So I hope you enjoyed that little garden tour. I know it's not the largest garden ever, but it's a fun little hobby for me. And I know we are still towards the beginning of the season here, and you know, more things are coming about. So I will probably do another garden tour in a couple of months if you're curious to see that. So let's get into my next knitting work in progress. This is a project that I've been working on for our Tudor Roses KAL, which, if you are not aware of what that is, I am co-hosting a KAL with 2 other podcasters here on YouTube. It's Gabriella of the Merriweather Knitting Podcast and Zofia of the Burke Creations Podcast, which they are both wonderful knitters. They have podcasts here on YouTube as well, talking about knitting and all things fiber arts and lovely things like that. So make sure to check them out as well if you haven't heard of their channels. But anyways, we are co-hosting the Tudor Roses KAL, and the Tudor Roses is a book by Alice Starmore, full of a bunch of beautiful knitting patterns, all inspired by the women of the Tudor era in history. So in this KAL, if you would like to join, all you have to do is start or continue knitting on a project from that book, one of the patterns that are in the Tudor Roses book. So the pattern that I am knitting from that book is called Anne Boleyn, and here is my progress so far. I've been working on this project for maybe a little over a month now, and as you can see, I haven't gotten very far. This is a jacket design, and it is also seamed. So this is only one portion. Each portion is worked flat, and then you seam it all together at the end. So this is the back portion, and it's worked also top or bottom up. Sorry, I always say that wrong. It's also worked bottom up. So at the bottom here, this is kind of the hem, the bottom of the jacket, and I'm working up right now. So it's been so much fun to work on. It's really a joy to see this pattern come alive, and it's really an enjoyable pattern. It may look kind of daunting and scary with all of these, cables and baubles going on, but it's really not. It's really an enjoyable pattern. I think if you've done cables before, or even if you haven't, it's really, really simple cables. Basically, if you can knit and purl, then you can make this pattern. I believe so. The only thing about this pattern that's kind of a little tricky is the baubles here in these rows of colors. So these are rows of baubles, like I said, and these are done in intarsia, which is a knitting technique. It's similar to color work, but a little bit different. And all you have to do with that is when you change colors, you just have to twist the yarns around each other. So basically my main color here is blue, and then I get to, say, this orange color. I would just twist the orange and the blue around each other and then make the bauble, and then twist the yarns again, and then continue in the blue. So that's basically the technique for any kind of intarsia that you do. I would say this is very simple intarsia because it's only like one stitch for the bauble, but yeah, it's kind of a different method than many patterns include. But it's so much fun to do, and you also, with that, you get all these fun little bobbins, all these fun little yarn bobbins hanging down of colors. So it's just such a beautiful design. I really, really love this design. And I'm also using different colors than the original design calls for. I wanted to choose a different colorway in general for my version. I think the original is absolutely beautiful and gorgeous, but I really wanted to see what a kind of lighter color combination would look in this design, what it would look like for this design, and I think it's just coming out beautifully, absolutely beautifully. So this is Alice Starmore's yarn as well that I'm using for this. It's the Hebridean 2-ply, and it's a gorgeous, gorgeous yarn base. So yes, this project is just so much fun to knit on, with the yarn and the pattern itself being so thorough and easy to follow. It's just a lovely time to knit. And this pattern also has quite a bit of waist shaping to the design. So I've been working the waist shaping as I'm getting higher here. And basically where that's done is it's decreases that are in between the baubles. So the baubles are never disturbed, neither the cables, and then you do the waist shaping in this kind of reverse stockinette section, and then you can't even see it. It's not even visible at all. It's totally genius how she does it. So I have just a bit to go, just a bit more to go in lengthwise here before I get to the belt portion, which the belt is worked separately. It's kind of this beautiful band of really intricate, detailed knitting. I think it has some cabling, some cable crosses, and more intarsia, more baubles, just so many different techniques involved, but I'm really excited for it. So basically there's going to be a tiny little belt kind of in the middle here, and this pattern has been taking me quite some time to knit. It's a very fun knit, but it does take a very long time, at least for me, to knit. So what I've been doing is it's kind of been my daily ritual to do either a row or two or a couple rows on this project. It's kind of my daily ritual that I just every day I try to get something done on it, and then, eventually it'll be finished. I definitely have to finish it before the year is up because that's how long our KAL is running. I definitely think I will be able to, but it is taking me quite a bit longer than my projects normally take. But it's just, I know I'm just gonna love it so much. It's gonna be such a unique, beautiful design. So I'll continue knitting on this as much as I can every day, and I'll do another update for you guys when I have some progress to share with you. And let's get into my next project. So my next project is something I've been working on for a few weeks now, but I've only shown to you once. It is a ranunculus sweater, and this is what it looks like if you didn't see it last week. And I did finish the body. So here we go. Now I have the body portion, or the bottom portion of the body finished, and I cast that off. And then I still have to do the arms, maybe. So this week I basically just got done finishing the body here, and there's some ribbing at the bottom here. I'm really loving how this project is turning out. Just holding this in my hands right now, it feels so lovely. The yarn that I'm using is just so nice. It's an Expression Fiber Arts yarn. It's called Alpaca Silk DK, and I'll make sure to link that down below if you're curious. But it's such a lovely yarn. I really love this yarn. So this pattern has really been such a fun project to make. It's worked top down, and you have this beautiful yoke section here with some really intricate, unique, detailed stitches. And the stitches are actually not themselves super complicated or, different by any means, but the way that the designer, Midori Hirose, the way that she combines them, I think really gives it this beautiful, iconic look. So yes, the yoke section here is very fun to knit for that reason. If you haven't knit this pattern before, I would highly recommend it. And there were a few people last week that mentioned that they are going to cast on their first ranunculus because of me talking about it, which is awesome, yay! But I will say, a little, kind of forewarning, there is a portion in the top, sort of for this cast on area, the ribbing up here. There is a part where she says to drop your provisional cast on, and I was so scared about that because normally you would never drop the stitches of your provisional cast on. You would pick them up and do something with them. But no, she says to drop them and do it because it works out. I think it basically gives you a larger or wider neckband here. I'm not exactly sure how it does it or how exactly it works, but it definitely does, so don't be afraid. The pattern is written perfectly well. I haven't found any mistakes. It's just a lovely pattern to follow, so I would say just trust her and do what she says. And there's also a lot of really helpful videos, mini tutorials that she's made, kind of to show you what she's talking about, which was very useful. I definitely watched all of them that she suggested, and it definitely cleared things up, any sort of questions that I had on the stitches or any sort of, the details here in the yoke or whatever. So that was really great. So yes, the portion that I got done this week was kind of just finishing up the body here, and then I also did the ribbing at the bottom and finished it off. And I did it to pattern. I know this is definitely a pattern that a lot of people can, you can very easily adjust it, make it longer, make it shorter, do so many things with it. But I just kept it the same for the body. I just did what she called for in the pattern. So the same measurements and everything. But I will say I'm a little conflicted on where to go now. So if you follow me on Instagram, you may have seen my story last week. I basically showed a picture of me wearing this, and I was asking you guys whether you think I should stop now as it has short sleeves right now, if I should just stop knitting and cast off and be done with it, or if it should be long sleeve or maybe 3/4 length sleeve. And I'm still very conflicted on what to do. I think it looks really cute as it is now, but I was envisioning this being long sleeve, but then maybe 3/4 length would be better. I'm not sure. So if you have a suggestion on where I should go from here as far as, sleeve length or anything like that, please do put it in a comment below. I am leaning towards 3/4 length sleeve, but, we'll see. But I could also make more of these. I mean, this was such a quick and fun knit that I might just do some more of them. And also Nikki, she has a knitting podcast here on YouTube as well. Hers is called the Knitting with Cat Hair podcast. Very fun podcast. Go check her out as well. I will link her down below. She also said that she is I think planning on or already has started knitting a ranunculus for every season, which I think is such a fun idea, and I think this particular design just lends itself so well to that because you can definitely, make it more spring appropriate, more winter appropriate, all the different seasons. So maybe I'll just end up doing that as well. Such a fun idea. So yeah, I don't really know where to go from here. But we'll see what I decide, and I'll probably have it finished one way or another for next week's episode. So I think that's everything that I have to share with you for this week. I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and I hope you have a lovely rest of your day. See you next time.